few years ago, around the time I was coming to be the pastor here, I had the telltale signs of a thyroid issue. My hands were freezing cold, I wasn't sleeping well, and I was developing little ridges in my fingernails. So I went to the doctor, and she said, once you go on thyroid medicine, you have to stay on it for life. So as a first step, why don't you try adjusting your diet and see if that can help? So I did some research and found a cleanse that is meant to support your thyroid. It was awful. Have you ever done a cleanse? Here's what I had to give up: sugar, carbohydrates, alcohol, starch, and caffeine. It was just a fantastic time in my life. It was right around the time I was coming here, and so the staff did not know what to make of me, always walking around with a pitcher filled with green liquid made out of kale and spinach and beet juice. But you know what was the hardest for me of all the things I had to give up? Surprisingly, it was the caffeine. I didn't think that was going to be the case because I don't drink coffee every day. I switch back and forth with tea, but it didn't matter. That was really hard to change my morning ritual. And after all, if you've been here for a while, you know that I'm the one who told you about the 3 C's. To start the day with coffee and your candle and with Christ. So I was trying to do it with 2 C's, and it was not as much fun. But because caffeine was affecting my thyroid, it had to be done. And here's what Jesus says today. If your hand is causing you to sin, cut it off. Of course, you'd like to have 2 hands, but a hand that is not helping you anymore is a hindrance. My problem was I looked at my morning cup of coffee or tea as my go-to. It was something that I depended upon. And maybe you have something like that too that comes to mind immediately when I tell that story. A lot of times when it's a nice day, I'll go for a morning walk before Mass in Coxsackie. I go down the hill and do the loop around the river and come back up. And if I time it just right, I always run into the same woman. She doesn't go to our church, but she's lovely and she's always out there power walking. And I said to her one time, boy, you're dedicated. And she didn't even stop. She just kept going and said, this is my religion, my morning walk. And it is. That's a really important part of her life. What are the things that you have as go-tos in life? Is it some kind of morning exercise, or maybe at another time of day? Is it caffeine? Is it coming to Mass every week? Is it some sort of TV station or radio station that you're kind of addicted to? That people say, oh, if he's here or she's here, you know that's going to be on. Depending on what your bend is, it might be MSNBC or it might be Fox News. Is it morning prayer? Is it some form of social media? Is it an internet habit that you have? A website that you can't seem to stay away from? Whatever it is, we are being asked to figure out, is this something that's helping me or is it hurting me? Or maybe is it somewhere in the middle where I need to use some moderation with it? Jesus says, if something is causing you to sin, even if it seems essential, cut it out. Cut it off. Go cold turkey. So the way we can know if it's causing us to sin is by knowing that sin means it's something that hurts our relationship with God or with others or with ourselves. If we're doing something that's harming our self-respect, harming our relationships with people that matter, or harming our connection with God, then it's got to go. Even if we would rather try to find a way to make peace with it. I have a friend who has a stepfather who's 90, and he's totally healthy, this strong, amazing guy. That's a real inspiration, I think, when we see people in their 90s who are still going strong. We have some of them in our parish. There's some that are here today. But he recently had a little bit of digestive trouble that made them nervous. So they took him to the doctor. And the doctor said, I can't exactly tell what's going on here. I could if I did some exploratory surgery, but we don't do that with people if they're 90. Better to just wait and see. So they decided that they were just going to try some diet changes, maybe do a couple of simple tests. But eventually they realized that it was his gallbladder that was the problem. And then another test showed that it was gangrene. Guess what they scheduled for later that day? Had to be done. He had to have surgery. Now, you don't want to do that if someone's 90. You don't want to take out organs. But when the time comes that it's clear, you have to do it. And so he's recovering now from that gallbladder surgery. And while they wish they didn't have to do surgery, clearly he wouldn't be here if they had done nothing. So if we don't believe Jesus on this, maybe we can believe Kenny Rogers. I've been looking forward to this part of the homily all week. You gotta know when to hold 'em. Come on, join me. Know when to fold 'em. Know when to walk away. And know when to run. All right. Don't start counting your money. But that's it in a nutshell. That's it. We've got to use discernment. We've got to use good judgment to know, is this something I can make peace with and do in moderation? Or is this something I've got to go cold turkey because it is never going to help me? So this week, what can we name as our go-tos that we should hold on to? Morning prayer. Don't lose that. That's an anchor that you can turn to. Don't give up on going to Mass every week. If this is part of a weekly habit that you have, you know what it does for you. You know how important it is. All of those really good and nourishing habits, keep those going. Cling to those. Those are the go-tos that help. What are the things that you may need to be a little more cautious with? Maybe need to do in moderation or take breaks with? Would social media be one of those? A little bit is good. Too much, not good. Whatever your form of that is being skeptical something that maybe you thought made you a realist, maybe a healthy skepticism that you had? Has it gone too far now? Sometimes now we see such bad things in the news, it can make us hardened and cynical. I was called by some parishioners one time to go to their house, but when I got there, they had a sign by their driveway that had a picture of a gun. And beneath it said, "We don't call 911. Kind of a mixed message for a priest coming for a visit. Might our skepticism have gone too far? Maybe what started off as a good thing has turned us into a hard person that our neighbors are becoming afraid of? What are the things that we just need to run from? What are the things that we would be able to name, this is sinful, this is hurting me, this is going to ruin my marriage, this is going to change my life for the worse, this is not something I can make peace with, I can't be friendly with this, I need to go cold turkey. Whatever it is in our life, figuring out which category it goes in is really important for us because Jesus' message is really strong and it's for a good reason. Funny story about that caffeine. I was told by my doctor that if I gave up caffeine, the first 4 days would be miserable. And they were. But she said, your body gets rid of the chemicals from caffeine really fast, actually. They don't stay around for long. She said, if you can make it through those 4 miserable days, on the 5th morning, you will wake up with a reserve of energy that you did not know that you had. You will feel good and awake without having a cup of anything. And that is exactly what happened. So, we are being called to figure out which of those things in our life we need to cut off. What do we need to cut out? Because Jesus says, if it's helping you, you know I'm going to approve of that. You know I want you to live your best life. But if it's hurting you, if it's sinful, cut it off.